Oh, my dog, hey.
Oh, my dog, hello.
We're back.
Back again.
And, wait, we should just scoot closer if we can a little bit so that we can see us. Oh, I know. Oh, I thought it was so... Well, if this is going to be video, we'll put it on our YouTube. Screw it. Hey, we are here with a special guest, but it's been a minute since Holly and I have seen each other. We're doing our double episode recording, and so we're excited to get together, but also really excited to welcome Dr. Bethany Shaw.
She is a DVM out of San Jose, California-ish area.
Yep.
We got schooled on geographical things again. That's fine. We're here in Iowa. Just wave the next time you fly over.
Yes.
But yes, Bethany Shaw, tell us a little bit about your organization, where you're from, what you do, how you do it, all the things.
Yeah. My organization is Coda Pet, CODAPET. We provide in-home euthanasia. Coda comes from the musical term for the end of a movement or a piece. So that kind of idea that even though euthanasia is a goodbye or a farewell, it's also an opportunity to bring out some of the beauty and the meaning that has been present in that pet relationship. So, we work with vets who want to provide in-home euthanasia, and we help them get going and be able to provide those services for their communities.
Wonderful. I know when people reach out to me about euthanasia, I always recommend, if they can do in-home, that's preferable. And I think some people don't even know that exists. I know there is a service out of Des Moines that does it. It's very expensive. My personal vet will do it for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she does it for everybody, but she'll do it for me. But I just, because of the relationship that I have with her, she'll do it for me. So I think it's very important, if you can do it, to do it in home. It just relieves a lot of the stress and a lot of the trauma, not only for the pet, but for yourself as well.
Well, and their last moments being in a comfortable place with you is just wonderful. And I think the reason that we got connected is that you've really taken this idea and thrown it across the country, right? So you've got vets in our area here in Iowa that offer this service, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we were started by myself, my husband, who's also a vet, Dr. Gary Shaw, and then our third veterinary co-founder is Dr. Karen Wela, and she has this great passion for vets who are trying to find a way to be in love with the field again. It can be really hard. Burnout's really high. You guys probably hear about that. And so, she definitely has that passion to help other vets who are looking for a way to continue using their skills and continue serving the community, but also find some of that connection again with pet parents and their pets in a way that is hard to accomplish in 30 minutes in an exam room. And, those kinds of relationships sometimes get strained. So she definitely was like, I want any vet who wants to be able to offer this to be able to do so. And then I came to it through my own pet. My vet school, you have junior surgery, you perform surgeries on dogs. I adopted my junior surgery dog. And, fast forward a number of years, she was reaching the end of our time together. She had osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer. The treatment for which is amputation in that limb, which sounds really grisly, but that's the treatment. And so we did that. We also gave her a couple rounds of chemo, and she did well for a while. But once she was reaching the end of that time that we bought for her, my husband was able to bring the meds home from work, and we were able to say goodbye to her at our house. We have 2 kiddos who were pretty little at the time. And so I was able to be present with my dog and not have to disengage from that moment to chase my kids down, keep them from opening drawers or running down the hallway or, whatever they might do in a clinic setting. So
the whole
that's when
family
for
goes there
me,
constantly.
that's when the light bulb went on, that I was like, hey, I want anybody to have access to this, to not have to be a veterinarian themselves or be married to one in order to have this kind of goodbye. Like you were saying, Holly, your vet will do this for you because you guys have that relationship. And so people who have access to that, that's fantastic. But for folks who maybe don't, for whatever reason, that's where my passion is and how I got into wanting to help. And so between Karen and I getting together and doing Coda Pet, we've kind of, as you said, Kara, flung across the U.S. We've got about 150 vets with us now, and so we're growing and we're trying to help communities wherever the vets are.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think this corner of the field has always kind of been, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know what to think about it. I think about the people that have to euthanize dogs in shelter situations, and then of course all of our vets that euthanize pets. And obviously we worry about their mental health, and we are concerned about it, and we can envision vets going from one room where they're doing, updating vaccinations, and then they go to the next room and they're looking at infected ears, and then they go to the next room and they're doing a euthanasia, and then they go to the next room and they're doing a cancer diagnosis. Well, and they go, it's like,
that's a great point, because I can imagine it helps a little bit even for the vet to have that appointment to go to the home, because you have that drive and that moment to be like, okay, I'm going
prepare.
Yeah, to just mentally prepare instead of like seeing a new puppy and then going to the next room and letting someone's 19-year-old dog go,
And then going to the next
100%.
room and being another puppy. Like, right. And you have to be all like,
that's a lot of up and down.
Yeah.
No, 100%. You guys are hitting the nail on the head. It's not necessarily easy emotionally, but I find that there is more time to process, and not just the drive there and the drive back, but even being invited into somebody's home, it just sets a different pace and a different atmosphere. I'm always so honored that people invite us into their space where, it's their sanctuary, right? The sanctuary for their dog or their cat too. Their pet is, the king or queen of that space, and undoubtedly, right? And so to be able to be there, quote unquote, on someone else's turf, right? It just sets a completely different emotional atmosphere. And then I get to see the pet in its unit, in its normal setting, right? With the family around it, whether that's human family members or also other animals that are part of the family. And so you see a bigger picture. And there's more time. Generally, these appointments are set for longer periods of time. And so you get to really connect with the people and with the pet, and it's less fragmented. Like you said, I'm not thinking, oh, this morning's surgery is waking up. How are they doing? I need to check on those stats. This blood work is probably done, and room 3 is waiting for me. And, there's the drop off that woke up this morning not feeling well and is a fit in, or whatever the case is. It can definitely fragment your brain, and you almost have to have this mask when you walk into the room right after euthanasia to see the brand new puppy and be excited for that family for this journey that they're beginning. And you kind of have to, perform, if you will.
A lot of different hats.
So it's definitely hard.
I've heard a bit, especially during like Vet Tech Week or Vet Appreciation Month or whatever it is, like the Not One More Vet movement. Do you participate in any of that? Does euthanasia play into that? I'm sure it does somehow.
Sure. Yeah. So, participation, I am part of the private Facebook group, and, want to help raise awareness that mental health is one of the markers that we all struggle with, right? But that veterinarians do have
Sorry, I guess I should probably give some context around that for our listeners. So,
Yes.
Not One More Vet is NOMV. It's a whole movement for the suicide rate in the vet world, in the vet profession, and
So
the stats for suicide amongst vets is astronomical, in my opinion.
2.5 times more likely to die by suicide than the general public, and 1 in 10 veterinarians has contemplated suicide, and 1 in 5 vet techs have. Which, you know, like you said, everybody struggles with some level of this, especially, you know, being in the rescue world. We were just, you know, sitting down and connecting and saying, like, man, what are we doing this for again? You know, one of those situations. And so we definitely feel for that, but we're not having to see even person to person or dog to dog, person to dog, or whatever, as much as even a veterinarian does. But yeah, that's the movement, right? Is to, like,
that's what not one more vet means.
Yeah.
So sorry to
No, that's
break your
okay.
thought there. I just thought, maybe our listeners might not know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's mostly about just raising that awareness. That I think it surprises most folks. I want to say the stat I heard, I don't know if it's complete, if it's still accurate, is that we're the top 3, you know, the 3rd out of the top professions that are at risk for suicide.
Right.
So yeah, raising awareness is important. You know, I don't like to make people feel guilty or anything, like, you know, hey, be nice to your vet. You should be nice to your vet anyway. But, you know, it's definitely something that is worth letting people know about. And for vets or vet techs in the field, there's the resources that they provide in terms of helping folks who are struggling. I find that the burnout is very real, but just anecdotally, I don't have, you know, stats behind this or anything, but the vets that I talk to who are interested in providing euthanasia at home and then do end up entering this kind of niche in the field end up finding a lot more job satisfaction is not the right word here, but they find that meaning and connection that was being kind of stripped away. So I definitely have, you know, all the vets that I talk to who have started doing in-home euthanasia are either like, oh my gosh, I want to do more of this because it does slow you down and give you that ability to connect with the families. Or, you know,
that makes sense to me, actually.
Yeah. So they'll, you know, kind of leave their day job, so to speak, to be able to do more and more of this kind of care, where you feel like you're caring for the family as a unit better than just, you know, the pet too.
Oh, for sure.
So in regards to your program that you're pushing out across the U.S., what are the limitations that vets meet to do in-home euthanasia? And what is it that Coda kind of alleviates in that?
That's a good question. Yeah, like, what is the program needed for, right? Like,
I just assume that all vets could do in-home.
Yes.
Is there like certain requirements or something that are required?
Well, there are definitely requirements on, you know, a state level and a national level and all that sort of thing. As far as why us, you don't need us to do in-home euthanasia. Any vet can do this. Oh, sorry. Any vet can start providing it, and don't need to go through us. You can set up your own mom and pop shop. You can work with other vets who are doing it. You can work with organizations that hire vets as employees. But the way that we're set up is for those vets who want to go it alone, but they want that support and help. That's where we step in. So vets who work with us are independent contractors. They're not our employees. So they tell us the area that they're going to serve, the community that they are willing to drive to, and, you know, how far, et cetera. And they set their pricing and all that. We just help them to put it together so that when pet parents go on the website, they're able to see the schedule, and they can actually go on and schedule the appointment. When they put in their address, it'll show which vets are going to serve that area, and they can book the appointment, see all the pricing and all that sort of thing ahead of time.
Oh, so they're like
they're
like the yellow pages for
this.
For vet, yeah. Okay, that's wonderful.
More or less,
because
yeah.
I've had friends, I've had people that have adopted from us that are reaching this point, and they're reaching out and asking, how do I do this? Who does this? Da, 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 da. And I would say, well, my vet does it, but they might live an hour away from my vet, and my vet doesn't know them, and they're not an established patient with my vet, and so that doesn't really help. And I'm like, well, I know there's a place in Des Moines that does it, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know their rates. I don't know their radius, whatever. So you're saying we can go on to codapet.com, and they can put in like their zip code, I'm assuming, or their address, and find a vet near them that does in-home euthanasia.
Look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll show vets who are with Coda Pet. So it's not just a straight yellow pages, because in order for us to, have all that data about their locations, and then we collect the payment and pay it out to the vet. So there does need to be a relationship between us and Coda Pet, as opposed to just the yellow pages.
Sure.
But yeah, they are able to put their address in. The zip code will populate kind of the general, information for that area. But if you put in the address, it'll tell you exactly yes or no. The vet will cover that address. And if there is a travel fee, say they are coming from further away, it calculates that right into their, based on that address. So by the time the family books the appointment, they know exactly the price that they're looking for, because it'll have had the, the appointment charge, and then they're prompted to declare if they're wanting cremation afterwards, if they want ashes returned. They'll put in the size of their pet. So all the pricing is clear. And then they're also invited to put in whatever memorabilia they want that vet will offer, paw prints or nose prints or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So again, by the time they book the appointment, they see the exact amount that it's going to cost. And so they're, there's some peace of mind there. We hear from folks too that they appreciate being able to do this online, that calling and speaking to a person would have been too much in that moment. So,
So, not to discount the work that these people are doing, Kara's just, while we're talking, going on to CodaPet and kind of real-time testing this out. So,
which, by the way, it's super easy to use.
It's super easy to use. You just put in your zip code, your
pet's weight, the type of pet,
yada, yada, yada.
And if you want the ashes returned, if you decide you want to do a cremation. And I know, by the way, I assume that they work with a local cremation place, but I know that there's, this is one thing I wanted to note as well, outside of what CodaPet is doing. I have found that there are local funeral homes, like people funeral homes, that'll do like pet cremations individually. I just use that service, and it's really nice. So you could always, have someone come into your home, and then you could take the remains yourself to a place like that.
Home,
yeah,
right.
But it does calculate if you want them to handle all of that, which is cool.
So what can we do, or what are we doing? What's CodaPet doing? What's anybody doing to kind of alleviate the costs on this? I mean, what did you put in, Kara?
Yeah, so
it's like a dog something. It's like $900 to do it.
That's if you got if you get the ashes returned and an urn.
I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying, $900. But there's a lot of people that aren't going to be able to afford that.
If you wanted to take your dog on your own to go get it cremated, which I'll tell you, I think I just paid. It was like $300 to have a cremation and have so it's not too far off. But if you wanted to just handle it yourself, to have the vet come out, it's like $400 in the Des Moines area, which
in the Des Moines area, that's not bad.
It's not bad. And honestly, I didn't even know that, or realize, or put together that this was a thing when we had our
that awesome.
Oh well, Yeah, the reason we even really kind of started thinking about all of this recently was we had a dog that actually just passed away on its own in a home, and then we had to find someone to come get the dog because it was like too heavy to pick up. And I'm like, what in the who? You never know.
It was a whole story. There was a gurney involved.
It was a gurney. Yeah, they said like a.
I heard about that, and apparently the line item on the invoice said some name fun, something family fun, right? Yeah,
there was no fun hat that day.
It's crazy. But anyway, and it cost about $400 for that to happen, I think, or $300 or something. So I mean, it is what it is. But
I think that's important to just call out so people can kind of
understand what to
prepare for that, because if your dog doesn't die naturally or die in a long state of pain and turmoil, this is something you need to budget for if you're looking.
Well, let me talk about
dog,
that all
like
the
Sharky
time.
is getting
just plan. Yeah,
getting old, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe you need to put in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, a part of having a dog is planning to care for them through their life and through the end of their life.
Right.
And if that's something that you want and you want to have, their remains back, and like I said, I have my giant urn of dogs. If you want to have your kids with you for the rest of your life, I mean, I think that part's important. Some people might not care as much about that, but just thinking about what that's going to cost and being prepared.
Yeah. Well, and to answer your question earlier, Holly, about, how can we mitigate costs and those sorts of things, I think Kara hit it on the head when she said, the vet doesn't necessarily need to be directly helping with the cremation services. If a family wants to reach out directly to a crematorium or a funeral home, that sort of thing, then that will help save some money. Also, if families want to self-handle, I don't know all the rules and restrictions for like burial in Iowa where you guys are.
Burying a dog in the backyard or something like that.
Yeah.
The thing
there's pet cemeteries and things like that too.
There is in Indianola a pet cemetery.
So there's one in Boone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The important thing, if people are going to do it in their own property, is to be aware of one, the chemicals being used, the medications that are used can cause problems we call it relay, where if a pet disturbs the pet who has had that medication in their system, whether that's
like if your dog picks up your dead dog.
Oh Lord.
There could be
or wildlife. If wildlife, bald eagles, for example, that has been in the news where eagles die or become very ill after uncovering a poorly disposed of pet, and then that becomes a federal case. So that's something to be aware of. So
if you're gonna dig your own hole, dig it deep enough.
Yeah, Lord.
Gotta follow all the rules and guidelines.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well,
we've talked about putting dead dogs in freezers for
well, that is a story only because
that's taxidermy.
Yes.
And I think it applies here. If it's the middle of winter and your dog has died and you want to bury it, it's not, I mean,
true.
I know it's going to sound disgusting.
My mother-in-law does not have the internet, so I can tell this story, which we got to throw a little bit of weird in
freezer for a hot minute.
She had her Pomeranian in the freezer for like 2 years because it died in the winter, and so she put it in the freezer so she could bury it when like the ground thawed. But she like just couldn't do it for whatever reason, And so then we went there to like visit, and we opened up the freezer, and there's a Pomeranian in there, and I'm like, what in the heck is this?
Did you put it in a bag or anything?
I mean, you could tell blatantly it was a Pomeranian, so it wasn't very well wrapped. And that was my last visit there. I don't go there anymore. I'm like, this is outrageous. And so then, like, 2 years later, my sister-in-law finally was like, I finally made Mom bury Ginger. I'm like, well, thank goodness, because Marcus went to go get a popsicle, and he had to pet his dead ex-dog. Like, terrible.
Thanksgiving dinner is just a little,
well, I'm not eating there anyway, but So, anyway, there's that. We always got to throw a little weird in there. So on a totally different note, and this is something that we have really great relationships with the vets that we work with. And I'll tell you, probably at least quarterly, if not more often, they will call us and say, hey, somebody brought in their dog to be euthanized, but it's not for a real reason. Like, it's not a reason that we feel comfortable euthanizing the dog for, whether it be a light behavioral issue or they're moving or they, whatever has happened, that is not to them a moral reason to euthanize an animal.
Yeah.
And so they'll call us and say, hey, like, would you be willing to take this dog into your rescue? Because we don't really want to do that. And we're offering them as many solutions as we can. And this is an expensive, in relatively like decision to make. I suppose you don't run into that too much, but is there like kind of a process in which you determine that the dog is ready to be euthanized at all?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for stepping in those cases when it isn't time and helping animals, because I mean, that's so hard.
It really shocks me. I'm like, what?
Yeah. As you mentioned, for us, we are not the most cost-effective way to say goodbye to a pet. So the good news for us is that we don't often see convenience euthanasias. We don't often get the people who are just looking for an out.
Oh, yeah.
Convenience.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So that is really helpful. And then I won't say that it never happens that we get to a house and meet a pet and go, oh, hey, this dog is up and wagging and like happy to see me. Generally, in those circumstances, it's because the family didn't realize that whatever they're dealing with, maybe old dog vestibular disease where the dog is, walking in circles and stuff. Yeah. They didn't realize that this could resolve and things might get better. Let's give some meds. Let's give some time and see what happens. So those folks are generally like so surprised and grateful that we're telling them, hey, it might not be the end. So I would say it's rare that there would be a situation where it's not time and the family is like, oh no, this has to happen. There's some resources that we have on the website, like, quality of life questionnaires and things like that help to help the family process if it's time or not. But that idea of being time, I think, is also different for everybody. And the people that all need to be on the same page, there's 3 of us, right? There's the pet. It has to actually be like a medical, or whether it's, psychological, behavioral, that I consider that medical as well, if they really do have a problem. Then there's the vet who, we're not going to euthanize if we disagree. And then there's the family. Usually it's the family that's the last to be on board. Usually the pet is ready and the vet sees that before the family does. So 9 times out of 10, we arrive at a house and we're like, okay, I would have done this for you last week, but here we are today, you're ready. And so now we can proceed.
Yeah, I always wish vets would just, I know I'm kind of different than most pet owners, I guess, but I wish they would just say like, hey, it's okay. It's time. If you need permission, I'm here to give that to you as a professional, not as an emotional decision.
Right.
Like sometimes people just need that permission, that okay. Like if it were me, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I think.
I was just going to say, on your website, I did find that kind of quality of life tab, which is your very first tab on your website. And it does have some different articles and calculators and things.
Codapet.com, CODAPET.com.
Yeah, and we'll link this in the podcast notes as well. But this is probably the most comprehensive grouping of information about knowing when your pet is ready.
It's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, so I think this is a wonderful resource, even if people don't use your service or connect with one of your vets. I think spending a little time and then having those moments where you're like, okay, I'm doing this for me. So kudos to you for putting that all together. This is great.
Thank you.
I do have some questions about the in-home euthanasia and the risk to vets. I think, again, I think the price point probably deters any ill will or wrongdoing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Malice.
Well, it's always, We
but
go into
like
people's
serial
homes
killers.
all the
I mean,
time.
I'm watching serial killer series all the time, so I'm just thinking like,
Sure.
yeah,
If
this
Dr.
is a pretty
Shaw
cheap way to
has-
get somebody into my home and be like, eh.
If Dr. Shaw has not listened to our episode, it's called it's called Porn Den, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
So
haven't heard it.
it's
a good one.
It's a good listen, but it's about how we have zero regard for our own safety when it comes to rescuing large quantities of small dogs. And so,
Oh my goodness.
similarly, I assume that if that's like, well, this dog needs me, they just march on in, you know?
Yeah, like,
Oh
what
my
kind of
gosh.
like pre-work do you
Yeah.
guys do?
Yeah. So when the family books the appointment, they do put their credit card information in at that time. It's not charged until later, but that allows us to have that information, make sure it's legit. We've got address, phone number, email address, credit card information. So, yeah, people.
Like if anything happens, they've got it.
Yeah.
They've got records.
Yeah. And then, every vet is going to handle themselves a little differently, but I will tell you, I carry mace and, when I walk into a house, I don't walk in front of them. If they're like, oh, it's this way, I'm like, I will follow you, go ahead, and
Yep.
just those kinds of things that you've learned to be street smart in general over the years. I still keep my wits about me, and my husband knows where I am, and
Yeah.
all
Location
the
shared.
good things.
Right.
Yes,
I was
yeah.
just watching the Rodney Alcala series on Netflix last night, so this is just like
Ready.
absolutely hitting home for me. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not following you anywhere for anything.
Yeah.
We
at
sat
any
on a
time.
couch with hot dogs in our hands waiting for someone
Okay,
we'd
that
never
was
met.
on you. And you said you would save my life if needed, so I was trusting you.
To anyone listening, we've made a lot of mistakes and we know what we shouldn't do. And so don't try to kill us in your home with the guise of a cute, mean dachshund or anything.
So that does bring up another side quest question. So, like a permit to carry in the state of Iowa, I don't know where it is anywhere else, but like a permit to carry, you cannot have any like alcohol or substances or anything like on your person, obviously.
Right.
Like you can't be driving with an open container and be carrying. Like that's a felony. That's a bad thing.
Well,
so if you're a vet and you have a concealed carry and you have this substance that's like regulated by the DEA,
right?
Where does that fall?
I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that. No one's ever asked that question.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that. I'm sure there's somebody who knows. I'm sure there's somebody who knows the answer. But I'm not her. So
here's what I'm gonna say: if this sweet vet comes into my house to help me euthanize my dying dog, and they sit down and they've got a piece, I'm gonna be like, "I'm sorry, but could you take that back out to your truck?"
Well,
please?
I mean, it's a serious thing, though. If I was a young female vet and I'm going to this random person's house, like with an injection that is going to kill a dog, it could probably kill me too. Like, what's going to say that he's not going to like disarm me with my own lethal injection?
Oh my God.
These are the thoughts that I have at 2:00 in the morning.
Now tonight, I'm going to need you to watch a comedy.
Okay, it's just something
valid,
to think
like,
about.
Thoughts about like, going into a home. Yeah, for sure, hilarious. Of course, that's where we landed.
That's where all of our listeners, they're also are thinking these
before
questions.
they listen to this podcast, they listen to a true crime podcast, and they're like, "Oh,
probably.
You know they do.
I know they do. I already know." So tell me, so you are a DVM. Do you practice on your own and then run this on the side, or what is and your husband? What does your life look like?
Yeah, no, I don't. I am a recovered homeschooling mom, I guess you could say. I had been homeschooling my kiddos until this last year. We have a brewery. I'm not gonna lie, like we do a lot of things.
Cool.
So
we're entrepreneur.
Carol,
I like it. I will always show up to a good brewery.
So yeah, we do a lot of things in addition to, my husband will also, he works relief occasionally, going into other clinics and helping them cover maternity leave or time off, or if they're short staffed, that sort of thing. But for myself, no, I'm mostly behind the computer, doing HR for the brewery and,
Is your
picking up the
brewery dog
kids.
friendly?
It is. Yeah.
It's like a Paws and Pines situation.
Oh, man.
We have a place here in Des Moines called Paws and Pines, which is where Kara, that's her home away from home. Yeah. And it's
they've got beer and dogs. What more could you
bar
want?
grill where you can bring your dogs, and
Right?
there's a dog park like integrated. It's very cool.
It's a mecca. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I absolutely 100% vote going to California and visiting.
We are always up for a good work trip.
What's the name of the brewery?
It's called Summer Fox. So it's in Fresno, California. We've got 3 locations. We just opened our 3rd location on Monday, St. Patrick's Day. So that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. But you guys come on out and let me know. I'll meet up with you. We'll bring some dogs.
We'll let you know.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I will take a trip.
Anytime.
Nice. She's already mapping it out. Cool.
I love it.
Well, I've really enjoyed getting to learn and think a little bit about why you did this, and we totally agree. We've been saying forever that this is the way to go if you can manage it when it comes to your pets, and when that time comes for specifically, I've got a couple of dogs who have quite literally never left my home because they can't. They're mentally not right. And so I can't imagine having to put them in the back seat and take them to the vet, put them through that, and then have that be their last minute. It's absolutely not. So I will not forget that this exists when that time comes, and I'm really thankful that it's a thing, and thank you for putting this all together.
So I do have a question, because I live in a different zip code than Kara, and I just went to your website and put in my information, and it came up with the same vet that Kara did. And so there's only one in our area. How do we, as Oh My Dog, maybe get our vets that we work with on Coda Pet?
Oh, yeah, because I know, my favorite vet at the clinic and your vet, I bet they would sign up. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, they can email me, or they can go on the website, and there's an area for vets. But my email address is Bethany, BETHANY, @codapet.com.
Yep.
Pretty simple. So
I think we should send that out to our vets. I mean, we have 2 vets that we primarily work with, and then a couple offshoots that, depending on proximity to fosters, we use. So I think having all of them on the website that we can reference our adopters.
Well, and then people that call us, and they're like, they'll call and say, my dog, I don't know, people call for advice on stuff that has nothing to do with what we do, but it has to do with the dog, and so it's good for us to have this library. So yeah, that's great. We will do that.
Direct I'll send an email right now.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to share or talk about?
Yeah, fill us in.
Yeah, I think, Holly, you had a question about your experiences with euthanasias.
Yes.
With your dogs.
Okay, just go bring this up because we forget stuff.
Well done. So I had a dog named Jax, and he was a Pomeranian. He was 12 pounds, super whiny, whatever. I had him for a long time. He got to end of life. We did in-home euthanasia, and I didn't think it went well.
Yeah.
In the first injection, which was just supposed to make him sleepy, he freaked out and cried and cried and cried, and the vet said that it was the burning sensation of the injection. I'm like, okay, I get it, whatever. And he was a whiner. He was he was a very anxious dog. And then George, who was 900 years old, he just kind of chilled out, and that was that. And then just recently, last week, I had another dog, and I had to ask the vet, I was like, is he gone, or is this over? It was, I'm not kidding, less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And so the 3 experiences, if you line them up, George took a little bit longer to them to actually pronounce him dead.
Yeah.
But they're all very wildly different. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that can play into different experiences. One being physiologically what's happening within the dog. What is the disease that has brought them to this point, or is their body, how is their body failing them, in what way? Another piece can be the medications being used, in what combination, what's the protocol there in terms of what cocktail of meds, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is tied to the first one, which would be timing. Are we approaching natural death already, or have we just received a diagnosis of hemangiosarcoma, which might rupture at any moment, but the dog is actually doing okay right now? Those can play a role as well. So some of our littler friends, like it sounds like your first guy, I think Jax, you said his name was, some of them have this hyperesthesia where, their touch is, their wiring in their brain is crossing, so that itch and pain and wind and any sort of sensation is all being registered as a noxious stimuli, or not necessarily painful, but maybe just negative.
Not great.
Sure.
Yeah.
That can happen.
That was Jack just living life.
Yeah, just every day. That was him.
Yeah.
Seriously. It was awful for him.
So that's hard. And if you guys in the future, or listeners have pets who are like that in life, they're probably going to be like that in death. Let your vet know, because you can start with, an oral medication that will help them get more calm. And it's not necessarily going to put them under anesthesia. So then there will be, probably injections later on. But if they've got those kind of calming meds starting out, either on the gums or oral, giving them treats that are laced with a little bit of fun drugs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then that's a good way to go with those guys. It sounds like your third one, was that the 900-year-old one, or was that the middle one?
Middle.
George, the middle one.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third one went very quickly. I don't know what disease process was happening, but was he perhaps closer to natural death already?
No, not at all.
No,
he was a behavioral euthanasia, and he was completely, he might have just been exhausted because he had gone through an extremely stressful situation, and I just had to make the call where.
Did they do anything like orally for him?
They
first?
gave him a shot in the hind rump to kind of sedate him, and then they did the.
He probably had healthy veins that, compared to the other two, right? His veins were not old man veins.
He carried it quite well.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it probably just went straight to the heart, whereas the other ones maybe took a little bit of convincing to get that drug through the system.
More
I wondered that.
Pumps of the heart to get to the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so also rituals. So I mean, Kara and I have talked about this. I have my own personal ritual for dogs that I do, like my personal pets that I do in-home euthanasia for. I do this thing. The vet comes. I have the countdown. I play the song. Da 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 da. What kind of It's a very specific song. Kara calls it the elephant song. It's the song that plays in Dumbo when the crazy mom is holding the Dumbo.
Yeah.
It's the Baby Mine.
Yeah.
The elephant song.
It's the elephant.
That cracked me up when you sent that. What kind of rituals, or have you seen any rituals that people do?
There's a couple of things that I don't want to butcher the meaning of them because it's not my own religion, but I've seen people with a red cord that they tie around the pet's collar or their paw, something that I think it's Hindu, so please
that sounds
forgive
right.
me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But people will wear them throughout life as a protective thing. But then I've seen them take it off and put it on the dog as they're sending the dog off as a kind of protective and also, farewell.
Yeah, I like that.
Lots of people take locks of fur and those sorts of mementos. Something that I think is really precious is when there are kids in the family who draw a picture and then put it with the pet, or gather flowers and they'll put them with the pet and send them that way.
That's a good question. So when vets take pets away to be cremated, can you send those things with them then?
Yeah, you can definitely send them along. Different crematoriums will have different rules about.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the different crematoriums will have different rules about what they will put into the system with them. So like big blankets and those sorts of things. Some of them will say, yes, it's fine. Some will say, oh, we've got a limit on things.
Sure.
But, like a picture, flowers, that sort of thing, I don't remove those. And from what I understand, they go through the process with the pet.
Yeah. I like that too. You could write a little letter or something. They can't read, but maybe once they're on the Rainbow Bridge, they can read.
It's more for
it's
us.
It's cathartic
than
for
anything,
us. Yeah,
right?
all of this is for. I mean, a lot of
it's for the living and anything.
Yeah,
when anything dies.
Exactly. Yeah, all of our rituals are for those that are left behind. Right. So yeah, well, that's nice. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, this is great. Here, I said, well, we've just talked about this, but I'm sure she'll have a lot more things. I'm like, this is a totally different perspective and a lot of different things that we didn't think about when we talked about it before. So I'm really glad this is good.
Yeah. Is there a like tipping culture-ish? Like, is there something people like if a vet comes? I'm always in so much distress, and my vet knows me personally, so it's never like an interaction. But is there like, do you offer them like something to drink, or like what's the when vets come?
Oh, got you.
Stuff, like, do you?
Oh, like
what about like
do they spin the kiosk around and ask for 18%?
like a tipping culture, or like?
Oh my gosh, I don't think about
this
that.
This is so kind of weird to ask, but
yeah, like
maybe it's a question.
As the family who's inviting the vet into the home, what should we expect for it to do?
You don't need to do anything. The vet is there to help the family.
I'd be like, don't look at me. Oh my goodness.
No, I have had people offer a beverage or, if I need to use the restroom where it is and all that, which is so sweet. And it makes me feel like a guest in their home. But honestly, I don't need to have anything offered to me. Sometimes people do offer tips, and it's, again, very sweet, not at all required or expected. But I've had people also give like sweet gifts when I've gone to return ashes and, bring the pet back home. Mm-hmm. People have given flowers, or sometimes they'll mail in a card, or somebody put together a gift bag that had like body wash and a notebook and just like a sweet little
I just think it's nice to think about do something nice for somebody that does something nice for you.
Well, it's a
in
service
your point of pain, and that kind of coincides with the not one more vet movement. Like, hey, I know this is kind of a shitty thing that you have to do, and as shitty as it was for me also to go through it, like, I recognize that
was
a great part of your job, and
better question than the gun question.
No, that's not a good question. I'm calling the sheriff for clarification on this.
I have to admit, when you said
that I would never have thought of, but I like that. That's good.
When you said tipping culture at first, I had no idea what you were talking about. My head went to like cow tipping. I was like, wait,
oh God,
what is she going to ask me?
Okay.
Well, I was trying to frame the question, but how do you ask that?
Have you ever tipped a cow?
No,
me neither. I grew up on a cattle farm, and I never even thought to tip a cow. Although now it's a missed opportunity that I can't get back, but
we could still do it. All right. Well, anything else you want to add here at the end? I know I keep coming up with really crazy questions, so if you just let me keep going, I will. But
I think the last thing is just, I don't know if you guys talked about this already when you discussed euthanasia, but for folks who are, we hear a lot, people say, I just want them to go to sleep and not wake up, right? Mm-hmm. And that they are hoping for a quote unquote natural death. I think it's helpful to remember what nature is actually like and what death really, a natural death looks like. I don't think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people have experienced that, thankfully, right? But to be honest, our dogs in nature, something's gonna either come be a predator,
right,
or they're gonna starve or dehydrate, most likely dehydrate first. And in our homes, we would never let that happen, right? I mean, we care for them that they don't get to that point. And so I think that's why a lot of times the family is the last one to be ready, because the pet can be carried a lot further than would be possible in nature. So it's just something to kind of reframe people's thinking, because when you euthanize a pet, they are given medications that put them under anesthesia. So they're literally going to sleep and not waking up. And so that is what a lot of people say that they want.
That's what I was going to say.
And why we can't do this for people, I don't
I know, we're all going to Oregon real quick before we're too old. But,
it's another day.
That people, when they call in, they literally will ask, here's what's going on with my dog. What do you think? And so, well, first of all, I'm not the one, but yes, I have had to be in that experience more than the average Joe. But we do say that it's the last gift that we get to give the pets that have given us their lifetime of love. And so I will never, question it. If I start to have that feeling, it means it's time,
Yeah, but I can totally relate to that struggle. Even, my dog I was telling you about earlier, she was ready before I saw it, and I had the training to see it. But we often say when it's our own dog, our vet brain gets turned off and we have to turn to our colleagues and be like, what do I do? I'm
you have to have that outside, non-emotional opinion. For someone that is not connected to the dog, to say, listen, here's what's happening, and if you kind of step back, it's time. But I always tell people when they ask, how do you know it's time? I say, I would rather be 30 days early than 3 days too late.
Yeah.
I would rather it be, maybe they would have been okay for another week or another 2 weeks or whatever, but I'd rather do it now when we're all good and coherent, and
there's too much suffering,
before they're just absolutely dead suffering. And it's invariably going to happen on a Friday night at 10 p.m. And so you have to wait the entire weekend.
Always.
So that kind of thing. So it's just if you're, like Kara said, if you're having those kind of thoughts or those feelings, then it's really time to start considering it seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think the hard thing, like you're bringing up, Holly, is it's a Friday night and, it's late or whatever. You have the ability to make choices taken away from you. And maybe that's what some people want, is I don't have to make the decision. It's clearly being made for me. But I'm of the mindset that I want to have the kind of goodbye that I want to have. And so I do want to meet it before it gets out of my hands, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
Oh yeah, you're talking to a couple of control freaks, so we get it.
The thing that really was convicting to me with my dog was, after the fact, I was looking at photos, probably a year later, I was looking at photos of her on her last day, and I was shocked, because what I saw in the photo was not what my eyes were seeing that day.
Yeah.
You have this picture in your head of your pets in their prime, right? And maybe they're a little skinnier, and maybe they're a little bit harder to get around and whatever. But when I looked at the photo, I was like, I never saw this with my own eyes. That's not what when I looked at her, I didn't see it. So I felt very confident after the fact. So if I could give advice to folks who are not sure, take photos, take videos, and watch them. Send them to a family member who isn't over every day, who doesn't see the dog every day, and be like, tell me truthfully, how is Fluffy looking?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, for sure. I get those, have gotten those more often, and I will always tell the truth, because I don't, I've done that. I've waited too long. So, we've all been there because we love our pets. So, anyway. Okay. Well,
I'm gonna send you a picture of myself tomorrow and say, now, truthfully, Tara.
Depends on how much you have to drink during this podcast.
Oh, shoot. Well, gosh, I can't thank you enough. I've learned more than I ever thought I would.
Yeah, this was
And I have so many more questions.
Oh, my
goodness. For the
local law enforcement.
For local law enforcement. Okay, so any vets in the area that listen to us, please get linked up with codapet.com so you can be on their registry. And so our general area can access you for these services. We are telling our fosters, our adopters, anybody we know when they ask us about these things to do in-home euthanasia if they're able to. And we would love to be able to reference them to codapet.com and find you there.
Yeah. It's a great service.
Thank you.
So.
Listeners, if you're looking for in-home euthanasia, please ask your primary vet first if this is a service that they offer, because they're going to know your pet best. They're going to know you and your pet best. And if they do not, then you can go to codapet.com and put in your information and find a vet near you.
That's right. Okay. Well, thanks, Bethany.
Thank you so much, Bethany. I appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, it was great chatting with you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.